I'm Jade McNeil and welcome to the Beespace Podcast, your bi-weekly dose of business and property realness. No hype, no fluff, and definitely no BS. Just honest conversations about what it really takes to build something from nothing. Okay, welcome back to the Beespace Podcast. I am so excited about this particular episode. I'm so happy to welcome my very, very, very good friend, Craig Sullivan, aka the Property Apprentice. Hi, Craig.
Hello, Jade. Thank you so much for having me on.
I finally tracked you down. I'm like, Get on this podcast, Craig, because we've got some really important things that we want to talk. You want to talk to us about, actually, you know. But before we jump into the key topics we're going to kind of cover today, just in case somebody's been living under a rock since 2016, you know, and not found you on Instagram, because I don't know how anyone could not find you on Instagram if you've got a remote interest in bricks and mortar. A little intro, Craig, into who you are, what you do, where you're located.
Yeah, so my name's Craig Sullivan, aka the Property Apprentice on Instagram, and I'm a property developer based in the Medway Towns. I've got my own agency, and yeah, I've basically gone all in on one location, one strategy. Absolutely kind of dominated that area. And now I'm moving into a political career, Jade.
Yeah, you are, aren't you? I'm having a Craig for PM t-shirt made. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Big up the grafters.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Craig, you know, before we kind of get into the topics we're going to discuss, you know, we've discussed this and before, and I think it might be nice to kind of talk about it to set the pod up. I know you personally have kind of taken your foot off the development accelerator of late, haven't you? You've not been doing as many projects. Has that been like, you know, have you done that on purpose? Like, what's kind of the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, so the main one is the kind of economic, it's a mixture of things, but the main one is like the economic standpoint. So obviously interest rates have gone right up, therefore lending is more expensive, therefore deals don't stack up quite as much. So there's that side, and then there's also the risk side of the Renters' Rights Bill, which from day one, as soon as that was announced, I kind of like my spider senses were tingling, saying this is going to be a big thing. And as we all are trying to figure it out, it is going to be absolutely huge, and it really shifts the landscape of where we are with especially on the student side.
Yeah.
So I've kind of wanted just to play things out, and to be fair, I think I've done the right decision. I've let the cash build up. I've invested in other things as well. So, and they've done and performed really, really well. So yeah, I'm kind of just waiting for a few things to break and a few more opportunities to arise. And I've just been a little bit more picky with what I want to go for. So yeah. But yeah, I've definitely taken the foot off. I'm going to less viewings. I'm not really, if it's not adding up, I'm just like, I'm not interested. I'm quite comfortable staying where I am. But my main focus is obviously the letting side. And obviously I've got, there's big talks with landlords at the moment about what their strategy is, what they're asking me for advice on where they see their properties heading once the Renters' Rights Bill kicks in, and how that impacts their investments. So yeah, a large part of my time, to be honest, has been taken up with that.
So talk to me in the most simplistic way and explain to, you know, anyone that's listening what the Renters' Rights Bill is that you've just referred to there. What is it, and how is it going to affect us?
Yeah, so it's the biggest shake-up of rental legislation in 35 years. And basically it started with the Tory government, Boris Johnson's government, and it was kind of like a hot potato. No one really wanted to implement it because, yeah, there was a lot going on with votes and stuff like that. And then at the 11th hour, Rishi dropped it like a hot potato, and it was great. And I was like, oh, thank God, they're listening. They've seen sense with this. And then obviously Labour got into power and they picked it up and they injected steroids into it. So now it's back then it was called the Renters Reform Bill, but now it's the Renters' Rights Bill. So now basically they're giving tenants but basically more rights, and they're penalising landlords a lot more. We're basically losing the control of our properties, and that's on top of all of the taxation, and heavy legislation that we see year on year on year that keeps getting piled on. And when you look at the stats, it's staggering. When you look at the stats, you see like 70,000 rented properties have been taken off the rental market in the last year alone. And that has a knock-on effect. Obviously, rents are going up. Like I think on average, it's 10% year on year. At some places, it's 20% year on year. We've seen a huge increase, and that's unsustainable. So as much as I'm a landlord and I'm seeing these gains, yes, okay, looking at short term, it looks great, but these aren't sustainable, right? So, and then that ultimately has the knock-on effect of homelessness creeping up, and nobody wants that. So yeah, it's in layman's terms, it's not very well thought through, and it feels like small landlords are being attacked constantly year on year, and this is I think is a push too far.
So when you say that we will lose control of the properties, the landlords, why? What is the change that makes us lose control? What will the tenants now be able to do that they couldn't do before?
Yeah, so a multitude of things. So there's the loss of Section 21, so the no fault eviction. So there's, again, if you want to sell your property or if you want to pass it on, there's more hoops you have to jump through, and some are removing it all together. Also, for us, the student tenancy is the loss of the fixed term tenancy. That was a massive one for us, because obviously we rely on that because we go hand in hand with the university terms. So there's a lot of people fall through tenancies, and we can kind of push back and have that security of income because of the fixed term tenancy, and it works both ways as well. So it used to stop landlords evicting tenants, so that students had that security of tenure. Now they've removed that, and so now tenants, there's no fault eviction, so tenants can basically stay there on a periodic basis, and the real blow as well, again, sorry if this is so tenant skewing, but that's my bag, is that we're not allowed to take rent in advance more than 1 month. So for cash flow purposes, that's going to be a stinger. And for the tenants that can't afford guarantors or they can't get guarantors, that was kind of their way in. They'll say, look, okay, I'll pay 6 months, I'll pay 12 months. And now we can't really accept that. So yeah, again, there's all these kind of policies that they've put through which don't make sense. And if they listened and if they spoke to the people that are doing it and have got legitimate businesses that have stood the test of time and can see that they're making a real impact to that kind of industry, then it would be clear as day. But it seems like they're not doing that. And that's why a large part of my debate is with Ben Beadle and the NRLA, is because I just think they're not doing enough.
So if someone's got student HMOs or someone's got professional HMOs, what's the biggest considerations they now need to think about? Make it black and white it for me on both sides.
So for me, it's your return on investment. It impacts everything. So at the moment, you get a group of tenants, they move in September, they stay until like August or sometimes September, or some people do July. Again, a large part of that security of income and a large part why it's a good thing for the student market is because it works both ways. So the landlord has security of income, the tenant has security of tenure, and it beats the halls. So the halls of residence, and this is the kicker, they're exempt. Yeah. So this is the thing. So the small landlord gets penalised through taxation, legislation, and obviously demonised, while the halls of residence, they can still have a fixed term. So it's all right for them to have their fixed income for all their shareholders, but for the small guy, we can't do that. And that's why I think it's completely unfair and very skewed. So yeah, but sorry, to answer your question, so that's why it will impact. And then you've got the logistics of it. So let's just say day one, which can happen, one person falls out with their friend. I don't know, Mary comes in one night, pissed as a fart, and drinks someone's milk or cooks their dinner or eats their dinner. Then they're like, oh, Craig, I don't like it here anymore. I'm leaving because of Mary, because she's done that. And so that's not even my fault or the landlord's fault. It's got nothing to do with the property, but yet they can do that. So it's just way more freedoms. But then the landlord has to then factor in higher turnover costs, cleaning costs, the agency costs. And these are landlords that put the tenants at the forefront. They make sure the properties are compliant. And this is for most landlords, clean, and it's a stable house to live in. And then once you throw in these rights, all of a sudden there's way more workload, way more cost. And again, this is only going to have a negative effect on landlords staying in the market, because as well, if you've got properties in your own name, Section 24 has been a massive thing for you, because you can't offset your mortgage interest as a legitimate business expense. And again, I can't fathom it. Nowhere else, no other industry in the world has this. So why have we had it? And why hasn't Ben had a song and dance about it, saying, no, this is ridiculous. We're pushing back against this. And do you know what I mean? Rallying the troops, getting some real pushback or fight back. And I'm not talking about like riots and stuff like that. I'm talking about peaceful demonstrations, or at least meetings with MPs to say, look, if you do this, this will lead to this. And so, that's basically the long and short of it. I just don't think people are seeing the full impacts of what's going to happen. And when you've got that higher turnover, how do you manage things like bills? For example, if all bills are inclusive, the beauty of it is people arrive at the same time and leave at the same time when you've got a group of people. When all of a sudden your HMO is like a hotel, coming and going, how are you going to police that? Say, for example, someone's mining crypto, unless you've got specific meters in every room, which again is a huge cost, you're not going to be able to police that. So logistically, when you actually sit down and look at the day-to-day running of a HMO, once you've got these chopping and changing every 2 months, it can be, let's just say, worst case, then all of a sudden your cleaning costs, your turnover costs, your bills cost, it's all going to...
Or your management cost as well.
Your management cost, exactly. Your agency cost, exactly, because they do like finder's fees. So it's just... it's not looking good. But obviously the landlords are going to say, well, to counteract that, I'm pushing up rents. So again, the tenant is penalised for that. And this is why I'm saying more needs to be done to educate us, not to be villains, but to show, look, we're doing this. Rents are rising because our fixed costs are rising because of government policy. The government are to blame. So that's what needs to be educated. And that's what the NRLA, I think, need to be doing more of as well.
So, you mentioned Ben Beadle there. I know that you've got a meeting booked in with Ben soon. Tell us a bit more about how that's come about and what you're hoping to get from it.
Yeah, so basically I just had an epiphany, and I thought, how is this happening? How are landlords being so heavily penalised, attacked even, and the heads of our industry aren't doing anything about it? Like, all you have to do is look on Twitter, look on Instagram, and there's a tenant protest every other week. To say, rents are too high, our landlords are scumbags, blah, 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 blah. But then there's not that for us. So I started looking into it, and I realized that, the NRLA, they are basically the head of our industry. They've got 100,000 members, they claim. So they're a big outfit. They're like a union for us. They're meant to be our voice. And yet they've achieved absolutely nothing in terms of pushback. They haven't managed to get any U-turns on any policy. They haven't managed to achieve any, pushback or anything. And that's why I was like, right, who's the head of this organisation that isn't doing anything? And that's when I came across Ben. And I started researching Ben. I started seeing what he's doing. And again, he just doesn't do enough. And I'm sure he comes across as a nice guy, which he's done. He speaks well. But you don't need nice guys in this situation. You need someone...
Realism.
You need a disruptor. You need someone to come in there and fight fire with fire. And I think, the mentality of it, the way I see it, is a doormat approach. We're being walked all over. And Ben and the NRLA are happy with that. And rather than pushing back, saying, no, we're not going to accept that. If you do, then this is what's going to happen. And we're going to get our members to protest against it, whatever. He's just like, yeah, fine. We'll accept it, or that's fine. And landlords or members, this is how you prepare for it. And it's just like, what? So it's just a constant. So we're never going to win. So something's got to change. So that's why I was calling out Ben Beadle. He then blocked me for a bit. I then carried on my pursuit. Other followers, my followers obviously tagged him in posts, carried it on. And
Instagram, right?
Instagram, LinkedIn. So shout out to everyone who fought the cause, and he ended up unblocking me, and he basically said, right, let's have a meeting. So that's where we are. So it just goes to show you, persistence wins in these things.
What are you hoping to get out of that meeting, Craig?
Some sort of action plan. Like I said, at the moment, the NRLA is a doormat company. It doesn't do anything. It's not fit for purpose. It just allows the government to walk all over us constantly, just grabbing more and more and more. It doesn't educate. And so what I want is a clear action plan of, okay, this is basically what we need to do and how to do it. And yeah, I mean, it's not my job to do his job. I want to hear what he has to say. Because if nothing's going to change, then obviously I'll just have to carry on doing what I'm doing. And eventually, I know we joke about it, but secretly we're not joking about it. We'll end up down Downing Street with our signs.
Oh, I was gonna save that till the end of the episode.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, but you've just ruined it. We're going to Westminster, aren't we, Craig? We're going to Picton.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We're going to go and make some noise, because that's what, you said, sometimes you've got to be a disruptor. We're just low hanging fruit, aren't we? We're just low hanging fruit. And do you know what? We are picking up all of the shit from all of the terrible people that have done a bad job in the past. And actually it's now trickling down to us, and it's just not fair. But you say, if you don't have a voice and you don't get out there and do something about it, how can you ever make a difference?
Exactly that. And landlords do provide a vital service. So you've got, the way I see, you've got the housing pool, which is, because it consists of social housing, which is offered by the state, which is free housing. And then you've got home ownership. And then in between that, you've got the private rented sector, right? And then a small part of that is the multi-billionaires, millionaires that just buy property, don't really care about the tenant, and they just look at it for the numbers perspective and wealth perspective. Fine, I don't speak on their behalf. Then you've got the really tiny part, which is the rogue landlords. They're the ones that don't do the maintenance, treat the tenants like shit, run illegal operations, are crooks, basically. Again, those people, that small portion, that needs to be penalised more. Whereas the majority, they are normal people running normal businesses, and they put the tenants at the core of their business, and they provide a great service, and majority are very, very happy. So some, like exceptional landlords, which I talk to and deal with and network with on a daily basis, because I'm always looking to improve. They're an absolute credit to the industry. We should be learning from them. They should be encouraged. Do you know what I mean? So, and yet we're all being penalised, and it's just not fair. So that's why I'm saying enough is enough.
Yeah, you really have a massive frustration, don't you, with the anti-landlord rhetoric that's out there. Yes. Have you had any negative pushback online with what you've been doing?
Not from tenants, only from one or two people that I think were Ben Beadle fans, and surprisingly, one of them said I wasn't taking action. And I was like, how can you gather that? I'm taking massive action. I'm highlighting it. I'm getting so much support for it. And look where we are now. Do you know what I mean? Ben's actually inviting me to a meeting. So to say that I'm not taking action, it's like, okay, how do you work that out? So that's the only pushback. But I'm very vocal on debates. Like, happy to debate any tenant. Any debate, like from, some would say, the leftist media, I'm straight in there saying, no, landlords do provide a service, and exactly, like, educating them and trying to educate them to say that we're not villains. We're not just still sitting on a ding. And this is another thing as well that the NRLA scored an own goal with. You're probably aware of this, but there was a campaign actually sent out by the NRLA, and they basically made us look like we were sitting on rubber dinghies on holiday, sipping on cocktails in the sun, living our best life, just watching the money roll in. And I saw it, and I was like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. And yet all of the anti-landlord charities, shelter, they would have had an absolute field day with it. So it was an absolute own goal. So that's the narrative we need to move away from. It's like, okay, no, where's the people that work a 9 to 5 and then work 5 to 9 on the property they're renovating because their tenants are moving in, because the previous tenants wrecked it? Where's that side? Do you know what I mean? That's what we need to be promoting more of, the more real side, the more that we know, as opposed to what's portrayed in the media.
This episode of the Beespace Podcast is kindly sponsored by the wonderful people at Landlord Furniture Co. Specialising in a huge range of high-quality bespoke furniture, Landlord Furniture Co. provides durable pieces designed to last in your rental properties. If you're searching for the perfect furniture to attract professional HMO tenants or need more resilient pieces for your student accommodations, considering cost-effective furniture packs for a larger property or looking for something more personalised to elevate your serviced accommodation brand, whatever your need, Landlord Furniture Co. will craft a solution for you. You can say goodbye to rubbish old flat packs and start investing in a luxurious experience for your tenants. Backed by a 3-year warranty and exceptional customer service, they really are the smart choice for any landlord or property developer out there who takes their properties, their tenants and their business seriously. So ready to transform your spaces with Landlord Furniture Co. and ensure that your investments stand out in the market? Visit Landlord Furniture Co. today at www.landlordfurnitureco.co.uk, or you can head to their showroom, which is in Oldham, or find them over on Instagram at Landlord Furniture Co. Now, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, but you know what, Craig? Kind of like a sidestep to that, and you know this is one of my massive bugbears, is like the fakeness of social media as well. Do you know people that are actually doing the whole, you know, I'm in Dubai, I'm on a Lamborghini because I own loads of houses? That does us zero favours. Sure. Zero favours. Those people that are out there that are making that level of content does us no favours. That just feeds the problem that you're trying to solve. And it just doesn't help, does it? Because it paints that picture. The reality of it is, you know, like we always say, owning the buildings, it's a long-term thing for us over a long period of time that we've worked bloody hard for. And let me tell you, you know, if they change all the lending but you can't fill the rooms and you've got a lot of voids, but you've still got your mortgages to pay, guess what's going to happen? We'll start getting repoed. We'll start going bust. That's not good for the economy. We need more entrepreneurs in there making more money, you know, to keep things moving forward. No one's winning in that situation, are they?
Exactly that. We want the private rented sector to thrive because
Absolutely.
It's needed. Yeah. So to give tenants more rights, to make it more uncertain. Again, it just doesn't make sense to me. And this is why we need the NRLA to change things up, because at the moment it's not working. They need to be more of a presence. They need to be more of a voice, and they need to have relationships with like housing ministers at the time or MPs in local areas, and we need to get that kind of backing, because at the moment nothing's there and no one will listen.
Yeah, it's almost like they need to take a section of their member base and kind of use them as a pool to listen to, you know, of like what's going on. But they're not. It's from what you're saying, they're not even doing that.
No, exactly that. Like, where's Ben Beadle doing the interviews? And I don't know, just
how's this going to affect you? Tell us how this is going to affect you. What could the outcome be? Yeah. How can this, you know, how can we make this better to help you? That I can see why you are so frustrated about the situation. I think I've just been hiding under a shell thinking, it won't happen. It'll be fine. Everything's going to be fine. But the reality of it is
yeah, exactly. I don't blame you. It's a crappy subject, and it isn't until you're in the day-to-day and you're running the agencies and you get tenants trying to get out of tenancy agreements on a daily basis. And I'm not just a property manager, I'm not just a landlord, I'm more like an asset manager. So I'm not just protecting my income, I'm protecting the income of landlords. I run like an ecosystem in the Medway towns for housing students, making sure landlords run a profitable business, making sure that the students' houses are also compliant and a safe place to live. And it's a very delicate model to balance. So when they throw something like this in, my landlords are going to say, okay, how do we manage bills? Or what happens now when one tenant gives notice? How are we going to find a replacement during midterm? There's all of these external factors that I don't think many people are chewing over. But my models aren't looking good. And the only way we can counteract that in some way, shape or form is just raising rents, like by a considerable amount. And ultimately, that's the tenant that suffers. And it's just like, and then all of a sudden the tenant's pointing fingers at us saying, you're the villain, you're the bad person raising rents. It's like, well, no, because we're forced to do this because of government policy.
Yeah. How do you think it will affect like lenders and lending capacity? What do you think we need to be conscious of?
Well, I think it's massive, like for exact reasons. So all of a sudden you've got fixed term contracts, which is that secure income, isn't it? It's the 12 months income.
Proof of income, yeah.
It's the contract. It's worth and in the UK we operate a very strict legal system, and so if you don't pay or if you've got a guarantor, you try to get that money back. So now that's gone. There is no. It's a 1 month rolling system. So before you had that security of income for lenders. Now they're like, okay, so what happens if all of your tenants leave? Which is it's a scenario now.
Yeah.
Just walk away after month 2. Then what? So now they're gonna, I don't know whether they're gonna change the yield structure. I don't know. But as a lender, I'd be using this as like, oh, hold on a minute. Yeah, all of a sudden we've had that security of income or security of payback. Now that's diminishing.
Yeah, and that means they'll lend less. And also it's like we were discussing before we came on to record. What about those buildings where you're on a 5-year fixed, right? And then you get a couple of years down the line, everything's changed, and actually you're really now over leveraged.
Yes,
because the value's dropped, because the yields are not there, because you can't guarantee the rent. Like that when we when you and I first started discussing this subject, was it last spring? That was my biggest concern at the time, was like lending, because that's the biggest thing that's going to come and bite you. Your tenants come in and out, like you'll not make any money, you'll lose cash flow, but your lending's chunky, and it's just like, what happens to your existing assets? That's the bit that gives me the shivers the most, I think.
That's it. And they'll ask you to leave more money in the deal, or they'll down value it more because it was worth this back when your area was a prime student area. Now that no one rents to students anymore, and no professional, half decent professional wants to move into a ex-student HMO. No. It's no longer worth 600,000. It's worth 500,000. Then all of a sudden you're like, what? Then it's just going
to grind everybody to like not do any deals, isn't it? Push everybody, push the students into PBSA. That's just so corrupt, that move.
Oh, exactly.
It's so and they're exempt, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, is that a joke? Literally, is that a joke? So let's say then all of this goes through, worst case scenario happens. What should we be prepared for as landlords, Craig? What advisors, what do we need to be considering?
Yeah, so to pivot. So obviously we're heavily invested in students. That's what I built my whole agency and business on for the last 15 years. So all the landlords that have been with me from day dot, we've kind of categorized their properties into 3 buckets. So bucket number 1 is the all ensuite HMOs for students. So we can quite easily pivot to professionals because it's all ensuite and that's usually the demand. So that's quite a safe pivot. That's a safe bet. Then you've got the stuff in the middle, which may have multiple bathrooms, which could work for professionals, but also could work for a family let. So they haven't been converted with all the license criteria of all the doors and stuff like that. These are just run-of-the-mill terraced houses. They're quite good size, but they've got multiple bathrooms. So it could, sometimes you'll get the professional that's a little bit price sensitive that might move into there. Then you've got the final bucket, and that is the lower end of the stock, which we've been managing for a long time, which really needs a cash injection. So we've kind of got 2 options there. It's either you inject it with a moderate budget and rent it out to a family, and then you go back to basically to a buy-to-let model, or you pass that on to assisted living or supported living providers, and they'll take that on for obviously slightly less rent, but for a longer term. But then by the time, and I'm quite attracted to that last bit, believe it or not, because by the time you factor in the turnovers, the management of the bills,
all the headache of it,
it could be maybe more or just a little bit less, but then you've got less headache because it's not you doing the maintenance, it's not you boring about the bills, etc. So yeah, those are the 3 kind of buckets that in my head, your property should fit in one of those if you're in a heavily populated student area. But yeah, I would definitely start looking at pivoting, and if your property is ready to pivot, and go from there. Just be ready for plan B or a plan C, because I think you're going to need it.
Yeah, definitely. So your preference is now, you would say you advise professionals over students?
Yeah, I exactly, because I think that's going to be the model, because it's clear, because they've removed the fixed term tenancy, Jade, the amount of students honestly that try to exit their agreement is
Oh yeah, we've had it on multiple occasions. Yeah,
exactly. And at the moment we push back, and at the moment they inquire about it. They say, "Oh, what if I was to leave?" And at the moment we're like, "Well, you're locked in. You're in a fixed term." The moment they've got the freedom to come and go, they can do that. And why would you stay in a property when you don't have to? Do you know what I mean? Why would you stay for those for the period over the summer when your exams finish back in May, or some of them finish in March? I found out, like for some courses. So that literally on day one, as soon as they got their exam timetable, their last exam is in March. Forget it. I don't need to be in Medway anymore. I'm going to have a nice summer with my friends back home, when mum's gonna treat me to dinners, do my washing, and I don't have to pay 600 quid a month on rent. Cha-ching. Why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't they do that? It doesn't make any sense. So you're going to get so much more turnover, and this is it. And this is why I'm saying it's going to hit your bottom line if you're factoring in. It's all about the occupancy game now, if that makes sense. It's all about occupancy, whereas before you didn't really have to worry about that. It's all about the occupancy. That's going to be massive, because that's going to make or break. That's going to be your profit margin, basically.
Yeah. Oh God. I remember when we first got into student properties, I don't know, 5 years ago, or whatever, we were like, this is the holy grail. This is the safest investment strategy there is. It's the hardest, but it's the safest. Now it's like, fuck's sake, all that hard work. And it could basically be picked apart, But I think about my own portfolio, and I think about, looking at, okay, well, if that needed to become that, could that become that? And they're all in very, very good areas. They've all obviously been gone through with a fine tooth comb in terms of construction. So the infrastructure is really strong. Do you know what I think might happen as well? I think, people start to exit the market, and inevitably what will happen is funds will come in and buy up, like you mentioned before, the housing stock, because they're happy to just sit on it. They just sit on it. They don't even want to make a necessary return. And that's sad, because they're faceless and they're not bothered about the tenants. And then standards will drop and drop and drop, because they're the only ones that will be able to warrant buying a deal at that level. The everyday person won't be able to do it. We know, like, I'm Nottingham on Article 4. I know the funds that are always, they just come in and buy like 3 or 4 houses at like crazy prices, because they're not looking to do what we do, where we go in, we'll, create some value add and extract it from deals, so on and so forth. They're just planting money. So they're like, I'll just plant that money. Doesn't matter, because I'm cashing in 50 years, because guess what? Britain's this tiny little island, and everyone wants to be there, and there's not enough houses, so that's a good place to put it. Basically, that's what they're doing. And that's really sad. That's really sad, because that's going to completely lower the standards again. Lovely people, I'm just going to jump in because there's something very exciting I want to talk to you about. My new business and property mastermind, Elevate to 8. I'll be running Elevate to 8 with my good friend Sam Lowney from Merry Oaks, and it will take place, wait for it, in the incredible Shoreditch in East London. The programme will be a perfect mix of group, one-to-ones, accountability and support. We're going to be hosting lots of incredible social events throughout East London, and we'll be inviting the most amazing leading industry experts within property and business to come along and be part of our programme. Now, this programme really is for those that have already started their business but are looking to grow and scale up towards those 8 figures. Whether it's you want to build your property portfolio out, or you really want to grow your property related business out, Elevate to 8 is for you. I want to make you a promise. Like, I have, thought long and hard about this program and how it can have a real benefit to our members. It's completely unique, very experiential, and I want you to be part of it. If this sounds good, head to the show notes below, click on the link and read all the information about how you can join Elevate to 8.
Yeah, I mean, I put a post out a while ago, maybe a year and a half ago, about this conspiracy. In 50 years' time, there won't be many landlords, because exactly that, they'll all be driven out, and this is the start, it seems. And so now more than ever, that's why we need these big voices, the NRLA, because they won't have any members at this rate if everyone keeps getting forced out. Because
hopefully you'll tell him that, you'll tell Ben that, and he'll be like, yeah, that's a good point, to be fair. Yeah. Tell him as well, you're coming for his job.
Well, I don't know about that, but something needs to change. Either he needs to come up with an action plan and decide if he wants to sit down, look himself in the mirror and say, am I fit for the job? can I create this action? If not, move over and let someone else do it. But either way, they need to step up.
Yeah. I really wanted you to have a voice today on the pod. Is there anything else that you want to go over and talk about that you feel you want to say? The reason I asked you on here to do that is because we can have a full conversation about these topics. When you're on Instagram, it's just a snapshot that someone might see, and they might be like, oh, what's Craig talking about? Whereas here, you can have that and they can choose to listen to the whole, where you're coming from with it. So I just want to make sure before we wrap up that you've had the chance to be able to say everything that you want to say on the subjects, that you're so driven to talk about and deliver on.
Absolutely. The message is that, guys, I hear your pain. So I see your pain. I feel your pain. I've got your back. I'll do everything that I can to lobby against it. And this is the thing, right? Like my little girls, I want to show them, like, look, if you see an unfairness, you need to rise up to it. If you see bullies, don't take it. Stand up for yourselves. And at least I could say that I did something. Do you know what I mean? Even if this fizzles out, even if we end up in London, there's just me and you there, Jade. At least we did something. Do you know what I mean? Well, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, and you know what? You're amazing for that. But everyone that I've mentioned it to has been like, "Yeah, count me in." Like genuinely, they have, because they've just had enough. They've had enough. So I think we're going to do a bit of a rally, aren't we, on Instagram, and see who wants to come and join us. I think we'll probably get quite a lot of negative pushback because we're low-hanging fruit to society. We are terrible landlords that just take from the poor and, do nothing for society and float around on a rubber ring.
Yeah, exactly. Drinking cocktails all day.
Yeah. I wish that was my reality. It's definitely not my reality. At the end of the day, it's an operational business. And like I always say, we're in such a privileged position where we can do this. So why not do the very best job that we can do, create the best product for, with the best function, the best form, backed up with customer service, backed up with the right ethics, and like, can we be represented and heard? Because we're not all out there to kind of leave people in houses full of mold and 15 people sleeping in one room and all that rubbish. Like, go penalise them elsewhere. Yeah. Okay. Well, look, thank you for everything that you're doing. Thank you for being so passionate, and thank you for giving it your time. Because, like you say, someone's got to, and you are the people's apprentice.
I'll take that any day of the week, Jade.
You are. So thank you, Craig, for your time. If anybody wants to chat to you further, where can they find you?
Instagram. Instagram's the best one. Message me. I always look at my messages, at least clear them out once a week. So just shout me and I will reply. I've got a few speaking gigs actually later on in the year. So good. Watch out for those. And come support, pull me over for a chat, and let's build this up.
And also, exciting news, you're also a member of my new mastermind program, Elevate to 8. So you'll be with me in London.
Yes.
Every other month. And we're working on some business stuff and some content stuff. So that's all really exciting. So I guess final point is there is a lot of like shit going on, a lot of negativity, but also within the mist as well, there's some good positivity as well, and some exciting things that, we're working on, you're working on, all related to property development. So All right, Craig, listen, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Cheers, Jade.
That's a wrap for another episode of the Beespace Podcast. I've been your host, Jade McNeil, property developer, mentor, and business coach. Don't forget to subscribe on your favourite platforms. And until next time, remember, don't believe the hype and always keep it real.